Wrigley Field, timeless ground where are echoed calls to past glory. Fills the air with the glorious sounds of today. Double play ball out of second. Cubs win! Cubs win!
Cubs win! Cubs win!
There it is! There it is! Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win! Holy cow! All right! To the crowd!
Hey, Cubs win! Cubs win!
The pitch. There's a drive. Here it is. There goes a runner. Hey, a line drive off the pitcher's game's over. Cubs win. What a lucky break. The good Lord wants the Cubs to win.
Cubs win! Cubs win!
Cubs win. The chronicle of the 1984 season at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Starring the Chicago Cubs and the lead players of the Addison Street lineup. Like the Hill Street Sergeant, we'll let the Addison Street Sarge have the first word.
Gentlemen, just be reckless out there.
Hello again, everybody. This is Milo Hamilton welcoming you to Mesa, Arizona, winter home of the Cubs, and the site where the Cubs began preparation for the tough task of pulling themselves up in the standings. With a 71-91 finish the year before, the rebuilding process begun under Dallas Green still appeared to have a long road to travel. Additional trades brought still more new faces into camp. All pieces of a puzzle for the new manager, Jim Frey, who was looking up.
Feels good. We've had a real good session here. We came in about 10 days early with a lot of our pitchers and catchers and position players. We've had excellent weather, and right now I feel real good about things.
And sharing that good feeling, Dallas Green.
We're going to be very competitive, and we're going to move up in the standings, and if we get to that 500 mark, like I said, I think anything can happen.
And to help make it happen now, a steal of a deal by Green with Philadelphia. Dallas had been concerned about protecting Wrigley's ivy walls. And in acquiring Bob Denier and Gary Matthews, the Cubs suddenly had their outfield ground well covered for the home opener against the Mets. A little luck of the Irish from Ray Meyer to Jody Davis, and a big welcome home turnout by the Wrigley faithful. Especially anxious to say you're welcome to newcomer Gary Matthews, who returned an instant thank you.
Line drive, base hit. Sanders trying to score. He'll make it easily. 1-0 Cubs. Listen to the roar of the mob.
Later in the fourth, it was Larry Bowa's turn to listen to the roar of the mob. Single. Time to say goodbye, for this day at least, to Mets rookie sensation Dwight Gooden. And hello, long ball, Alasay. Davis. And Matthews. For the Sarge, who went 3 for 4 with a homer, a beaut of a Wrigley debut. And for the Cubs, 11 runs altogether. Mighty good-looking numbers to the Rainbow, Steve Trout, who countered long ball with ground ball.
Ground ball, Boa. Cubs win. Cubs win. Listen to the crowd.
Cubs 11, Mets 2. Plenty of hometown cheer for all, especially for Steve Trout, who managed to complete only 1 game while fighting an upstream battle through much of '83. Nothing like a little success to build a little confidence. And as the days progressed, Jim Fry was gaining more confidence by knowing the Cubs had finally found him the right name to write in at the top of the lineup card, Bob Dernier.
We wanted a center fielder that could fit into the leadoff spot in terms of getting on base and base running abilities, stolen bases, and Bobby Dernier fit that bill.
The shoe sure fit all right. All Dernier had to do was wear it as well as the Cubs thought he could. Everyone knew what those feet could do once on the bases. Only question was getting them there consistently. But Dernier understood that.
My role is to be on that sack when the big boys come up.
And from the first pitch of the season, Dernier did get on that sack, hitting over 300 through much of the year.
Once you get over there, you just try to, get a good lead and fight for a good lead. So you can think about not necessarily getting picked off. You want to think about going towards second base, have all your momentum going that way. So when he does make that move to home, all your momentum's going there.
Steals in '84, the most by any Cub since Johnny Evers stole 46 way back in 1907, when he and Tinkers and Chance moved to a whole other kind of tune.
Line drive, right center. Nobody's going to get this one all the way to the wall. The runner's in. Look at Dernier run. Holy cow. I'd like to have $2 on his nose.
Dernier, which rhymes with deer, means last in France. But not in Chicago. Dernier was also the center of attention in the outfield, where the Cubs hadn't had a center fielder of such far-reaching range in nearly a quarter of a century. And because of a multitude of such putouts, Bob Dernier was awarded the first Gold Glove of his career in 1984. On April 28th, along the banks of Pittsburgh's Three Rivers, the Cubs were playing pitcher's duel with the Pirates. Newly acquired Scott Sanderson was the Cubs pitcher, and Tony Pena tried to rock him.
Drive, deep left center, way back, near the wall. Dernier, a sensational play.
Such plays were now starting to work wonders to the minds of Chicago pitchers. And in this game, Sanderson went on to pitch one of the best games of his career.
Bouncing ball, that should be it. Cubs win it. Masterful pitching performance by Scott Sanderson.
Sanderson's third straight win. Only 2 hits allowed and only 28 batters faced. 2 weeks later, Jody Davis proved things can be pulled or hit out, even within the vast outer spaces of Houston's Astrodome. With 2 on, 2 out, and the Cubs trailing in the ninth, on a 3-0 count, Jim Fry flashed a green light.
To left center. Mumphrey. Home run. The Cubs have taken the lead.
A 5-4 win made possible by Fry's respect for Davis in giving him that green light.
I think that he's a good natural hitter. He also is an excellent clutch hitter. He's gotten a tremendous amount of big hits for us. I would say that with some recognition of this ball club in '84, Jody Davis will be called one of the best catchers in all of baseball.
No doubt about that. J.D. got it all together in '84, cutting his pass balls down from 21 to 10, while cutting down runners like never before. By August, Davis threw out more.
The #1 fitness
Together. And how often do you see catchers make unassisted double plays? With the crowd chanting his name, the Georgia Redhead was the people's choice and very often gave the people just what they wanted. With his knack for hitting them when it counted most, J.D. drove in a career high in '84-'94, the most RBIs of any Cub catcher other than the legendary Gabby Hartnett. And the Windy City's People's Choice became the National League's People's Choice as Joe D. was selected for his first All-Star game, completing one portion of a big league dream.
Once you get into major leagues, I guess I have two goals. One's an All-Star game and one's a World Series, so it's a big thrill for me.
Also a thrill to hear the All-Star ovation for Jody's good buddy and teammate Ryne Sandberg, who played all 9 innings in his first All-Star outing. But hold it, how does a player become such a nationwide star in less than 3 months? True, Sandberg did win a Gold Glove in '83. Still, he wasn't much known beyond the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. But on June 23rd, a national TV audience got to know number 23 in a flash.
In left center field and deep. This is a tie ball game.
The home run came in the ninth, tying a wild comeback effort by the Cubs against, of all people, ex-Cub Bruce Sutter, who was still on the mound with the Cardinals leading by 2 in the 10th when Sandberg did it again.
Do you believe it? It's gone!
Nobody, not even Wrigley fans, could easily believe it. A 2-run homer to tie the score at 11 after the Cubs had once trailed 7-1.
Just didn't quit, and it was probably one of the top 2 games I've ever been a part of.
It was the greatest game that I've ever played in.
I think that was one of the games that made our players realize how good we could be.
How good Sandberg was. The Cubs won at 12-11 as Ryne went 5 for 6 with 7 RBIs and the 2 big homers.
One day I thought he was the best ball player in the National League, and then he hit 2 home runs off of Sutter in one ball game, which nobody else has ever done in history. And I might say right now he might be the best ball player I've ever seen overall.
The second baseman star was rising so fast that even managers in the other league couldn't help talking about him.
Awful good-looking player. I have to think that he might be as good a player as the National League has right now.
It'd be hard to have a better year than this boy's having. He's an excellent second baseman, the best second baseman I've ever been associated with.
Ryne Sandberg's probably the best-looking young player I've seen in a long time come to the big leagues. There's nothing he can't do on the baseball field.
But when he goes out there to play, he's all business, and there's only one thing on his mind, and that's winning.
How lucky you've been. Knew you could make it from the beginning. Remember, you're high up in the clouds. Keep your feet firmly on the ground. You're a winner. You're a star. Don't let it change you. You are what you are. Everyone loves you. They hang on your side. Everyone loves being near you. You've come a long way. They know you worldwide. Nobody cares what you're feeling inside. You're a winner. You're a winner, so winner. Take off.
There's a high drive. Deep left field. Way back. It might be. It is! Ryne Sandberg. Holy cow.
Holy Toledo, how many second basemen can hit 19 homers, steal 32 bases, and rank at or around the top of the league in hits, average, doubles, triples, slugging percentage, and runs scored? Just about everyone, including the All-Star Game MVP, were saying what the writers would finally confirm.
He might be, he could be, and he is Ryne Sandberg, MVP for the 1984 season.
There was no doubt about Executive of the Year in '84. Dallas Green had the vision to bring a winner's outlook into focus in less time than anyone could have thought possible. In less than 3 years, Green overthrew decades of frustration at Wrigley by restructuring almost the entire ball club with a long list of remarkable astute trades. Only Leon Durham, Jody Davis, and Lee Smith survived Green's revolving door of deals. And when Dallas loosened his tie for the last big one on June 13th with the Indians, the Cubs found the final piece to the winning puzzle. Rick Sutcliffe had been struggling somewhat in Cleveland, but coming to Chicago seemed to be all he needed to make a second start on the season of his life, along with some helpful words from his new pitching coach, Billy Connors.
Well, the biggest thing is that he's a complete pitcher. He's got 4, good pitches that he can get over at any time. And that's the secret of Rick Sutcliffe. He's got above-average fastball, he's got an excellent slider, good curveball, and a real good changeup, but he throws them at any time, in any situation. And he's very aggressive on the mound, and he keeps you in the ball game.
In the game and on top of the game, right from his very first start at Wrigley against St. Louis.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Rick Sutcliffe, making his debut as a Cub at Wrigley Field, has pitched a 5-hit shutout.
Like some oversized messiah, the Red Baron immediately appeared invincible after only going 4-5 in Cleveland. How so?
It's not that I've changed anything. It's just that now I'm playing for a ball club that's outstanding defensively, first of all, and they score a lot of runs. And because of that, I can sit back and challenge people. I'm just throwing the first pitch, trying to get it over, regardless of what I throw. Just here it is, hit it, and if they don't hit it, then I start moving the ball around after that.
And after June 13th, no pitcher in baseball won more. 16-1, including 14 straight wins for the Cubs, to earn him the league Cy Young Award. Unreal. Of course, by July, many people were still claiming that everything happening at Wrigley was unreal. But one veteran had something to say.
I believe we've got a ball club that stacks up very well against anybody else in the National League, but we've got to stay healthy. We've got to play good fundamental baseball, and right now, instead of talking about it, we just got to continue doing it.
And to continue doing it, it sure didn't hurt having a winner like Ron Cey at the hot corner. At the age of 36, the Penguin enjoyed the second-best defensive season of his career, going 60 straight games without an error, 4 games shy of a league record for third baseman.
Say.
And what do you say about a guy who ranked 5th in the league in homers with 25 and 4th in RBIs with 97, while batting 7th in the lineup? And all while enduring some very painful injuries. Say what? Penguin power remained an item of rare beauty to behold. But while sluggers such as Cey made life easier for Cub pitchers, no team can enter a pennant race without quality hurlers. That's one reason why Bill Buckner was dealt to Boston, and Dennis Eckersley made it work as the team's #3 starter in the stretch drive. After the All-Star break, Eck went 8-3 with a 2.06 ERA. And from the bullpen, George Frazier arrived with Sutcliffe from Cleveland and joined Tim Stoddard and Warren Brewster in helping keep the middle innings of ball games from getting out of hand. Of course, the final innings, when the game was on the line, meant time to hand the ball to the big guy, Lee Smith, who was especially effective in the hot summer months or dog days when the Cubs made their push for the top. From July 4th to August 11th, Smith went 4-0 with 10 saves and a 1.04 ERA. Overall, Jim Frey got 33 saves from Smith, the second highest total amongst league relievers. Of course, when the heat's on, there's nothing like putting out the fire with a 97-mile-per-hour fastball of a bona fide flamethrower.
Have you heard about Woodfield?
The flamethrower could put the fear of God into batters, but he isn't about to forget the scare he got in one game in early August. Anyone who saw it will never forget it.
Drive out the pitcher's game's over. Cubs win. What a lucky break. The good Lord wants the Cubs to win.
Well, I hope he's on our side. I don't know if he is, but I hope he is. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen, to finish a ball game. I've seen similar things happen in a game, but not at the end of the game for a double play, and it was just incredible.
Also incredible was Leon Durham. After settling at first, he felt good.
Right now, I feel like I'm in a good groove, and I'm set as far as position-wise, and looking forward to continue playing some good ball.
Though an injury cost him 3 weeks in midseason, Leon played some excellent ball in his first season at his natural position of first base. Of course, at the plate, the Bull continued to be one of the hardest hitters in the league, with 23 homers, 96 RBIs, and 14 game winners, all personal bests. From the Bull, with every home run he hit, a $750 donation to the Chicago Public High School Athletic Program. And that ain't just chewing tobacco. Bull Durham adding to the riches and sharing the wealth in the historic summer of '84 at Wrigley Field. The Tribune purchased the Cubs in 1981, but ever since the days when fans formed human outfield fences, the Tribune has been on the scene in Chicago baseball, even when the Cubs played at the West Side grounds. The Cubs moved to Wigman Park, now known as Wrigley Field, in 1916. And precious little has changed the feel of the park from its days of the Becks and Wrigleys. And if the nature of baseball is indeed timeless, there's surely no better ticket to beating the clock than a ticket to Wrigley.
Top card lineup program.
A child doesn't need a history book to sense the timeless magic of the center field scoreboard, where operators still enjoy the bird's eye view while checking the ticker and manually changing the numbers for games across the majors.
0 on the ends, 0 on the ends.
Wrigley Field, the place to catch baseball in its purest form. Under the sun, as it is, as it was, as always. America's pastime of bat, ball, and bases. And the guy who can cover most of the bases, first base, third base, catcher, and right field, Keith Moreland, the Cubs' hard-driving redhead from Texas. A former Longhorn defensive back who admired Larry Zonka, Zonk's not the type to cities if he hasn't got a place to play every day. But when Mel Hall was traded in mid-June, Zonk found that place in right field, and from then on was hard to contain, in the field and on the bases. Zonk ended up with 16 homers and 80 RBIs and was especially hot in the key month of August. Named National League Player of the Month with 32 RBIs and 8 game winners in August, Moreland helped muscle the Cubs from a late July 4.5 game deficit to an early August 4.5 game advantage over the Mets. It all started with 3 wins in New York and concluded with the most explosive 4-game series with the Mets in Chicago. Game 1, the Cubs held a half-game lead over the Mets and were out to run it up. And what a blowout. Cubs 10, Mets nothing. Tradition had it that the Cubs always willed it in the dog days. But as everyone was now learning, these Cubs were a breed apart. And no dogging around in Game 2 either. Not with the Red Baron at the controls of the first game of a doubleheader. Actually, it wasn't one of Sutcliffe's best games as the Mets took an early 4-2 lead. Only to have that Depot Stove guy, Keith Moreland, obliterate it with a sky-high 3-run job. The Cubs went on to outslug the Mets in both ends of the twin bill, 8-6 and 8-4. But a play out of left field really made it Chicago's day.
Line drive into left field. Watch him play at the plate. A good throw. Look at the throw. They're going to get him. He's out! Holy cow! The Sarge made a perfect throw.
Compliments from the Sarge to his old buddy Keith Hernandez at home. Indeed, the Cubs were holding no prisoners. Game 4, and once more the Mets had to suffer Zonk and the Sarge.
That is a low moving hit in the shot right there. Here comes Matthews. He's racing to the plate. A good throw might get him. Save! The Cubs are leading. Moreland came through again.
In a seesaw afternoon, the Cubs finally handed a 7-6 lead to Tim Stoddard.
This should be it. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow. And the Cubs have swept the 4-game series.
From 4.5 out to 4.5 in front in less than 2 weeks. But did being the front runner spell added pressure? Not to the new breed. Cubs mania was sweeping across the nation. And out in Hollywood, not even Johnny Carson could make a joke of it.
You want to hear the most startling news of the year? The Chicago Cubs are in first place.
For once, it was the Cubs' turn to laugh. Not at themselves, but at everyone else now trying to catch them. And one rival considered most dangerous to Chicago had become especially prone to the flood. The Philadelphia Phillies, swiftly getting known as the E-team, steadily erased themselves in the stretch, while Cub captain Larry Boa, once a Philly himself, continued effortlessly on as the all-time fielding percentage leader amongst shortstops. The sure-handed 38-year-old captain brought plenty of pennant racing experience and helped stabilize an infield which made only 40 errors all season long. The captain didn't have his greatest season with the bat, but forget that. The Cubs needed his glove and poise, especially through the September stretch. Meanwhile, the New York Mets needed every victory they could get, and the writing was on the wall and all around Wrigley Field for the Mets as they played their final series with the Cubs in mid-September. Time for the Cubs and the people's choice to put things all but out of reach.
There's a drive back into center. It's well hit. It is going. Grand slam. Grand slam. Grand slam. Jody Davis.
Davis, once a product of the Mets, had once more crowned a 7-1 win. dropping the Mets 8.5 out to keep the bitter memory of '69 turning in counterclockwise direction. With the magic number shrinking day by day, the Cubs continued to play it loose, especially in a brand new clubhouse filled with winning smiles.
Yes. Oh, he does. That's awesome. This is what you call it. Hey.
And to keep those feet moving in the proper swing of things, plenty of good music by order of the Sarge, Gary Matthews.
It's a lot of music in the clubhouse and has a tendency to really sort of loosen you up and kind of get your juices flowing as far as getting ready to get out there on the field.
Baseball is, after all, a game. And as far as the Sarge is concerned, might as well make a game of it in batting practice, too.
Did you?
Oh, he didn't.
He said yes. He did.
Really?
I see you. We play different games in batting practice, get them over, get them in, and a lot of times you'll have situations during the game where it's just the way that it is. You get them over and you get them in. That's nice. Bases loaded, we got no outs.
Matter of fact, the Sarge has been playing it for 12 years, since he joined the Giants back in '72.
That'll do it, won't it? That'll score Bobby. Oh, man, they hacker. Well, I think the Sarge is ready to take charge here. Yeah, I'm a little bit quicker.
Oh, yeah, man those cannons, troops. When it's time to move to the front, you know the Sarge won't just be whistling Dixie. As is his custom, the Sarge exploded in the final months. But throughout the year, the Sarge provided leadership on the field while leading the league in on-base percentage and game-winning hits. Of course, Sarge also led his troops in the left field bleachers, invoking uncommonly disciplined responses from that area. Driving it to left. Left fielder looks up, and it is gone. A line drive home run by the Sarge. Oh, when you get past the middle of August, the Sarge turns it on. He's done that historically, and he's doing it as a Cub as well. No question on that. The Sarge earned his stripes in '84, as did his left field forces, with their Sarge hats issued at his own decree. Cub fans converged on St. Louis.
Cub #1, all the way.
Knowing the Cubs needed 2 more to clinch a tie, Matthews wasted little time.
Fly ball, right center, pretty well hit. It'll be in and puts it Tweener up against the wall. Lois scores. Dernier scores. Sandberg will score. It's a 3-run double for the Sarge.
With the Sarge exerting command, the Cubs easily won the first game of the doubleheader 8-1. And in the second game, the story featured more of the same. Same charge from the Sarge, at least. Well, deep to left. Back. Hey! Atta boy, Sarge! Hey! Holy cow! The Cubs took control 4-2, then left the icing to the flamethrower Lee Smith.
Line drive. Cubs win. Cubs win the doubleheader. Cubs win the doubleheader. Holy cow. They are assured of no worse than a tie. Their magic number is 1.
All the Cubs, from the Sarge to Commander-in-Chief Fry, could now feel the joy of a victorious campaign at hand, as could another Commander-in-Chief and longtime Cubs supporter.
All my life, I've believed in miracles. I believe that if you truly have faith, your dream will come true. And now, after 39 years of waiting, the miracle is happening.
And to complete the miracle, the countless faithful, like those at Butch McGuire's on Rush Street, devoutly looked on for that long-awaited word from Pittsburgh.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, life, it means forever, and that's a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you, there's something else.
It's religious. It's religious. It really is religious. It's a religious experience. That's all I can say.
You gotta love this game. You really do.
It's VE Day all over again. It's victory in the Eastern Division.
And to get it going, who else but the Sarge? A little later, with a man on, a true zonker. A surprise hit by Moreland. That's 3. A fair enough margin for the man on the tube or mound, Mr. Sutcliffe. After 39 years, who couldn't be excited? Raise the steins and prepare to pop the corks. Sutcliffe and the Cubs were but a strike away from toasting the miracle. The longest title drought in all of baseball was no more. Come on, baby. And come October, time for the whole country to go crazy with a fresh view of postseason play, Wrigley Field style. Time to listen closely and watch the ivy, because the wind's blowing and blowing out. And in the Windy City, Game 1 of the League Championship Series between the Cubs and Padres brings hopes of fulfilling the apocalypse now. The troops are lined up. And a former all-star general suited up. And on the day of the long ball hunter, the deer fires the first shot in his first at-bat, clear out of the pasture. No mistaking that kind of a leadoff signal. Especially for the Sarge. This would be nothing less than an all-out assault, an all-day explosion at Wrigley. In the longest day of offensive domination of one team over another in postseason play, the Eastern Division champs reign supreme and victorious over the Western Division champs 13-0. No matter how broad the margin, it was still only one victory, and the next day would find no wind blowing out at Wrigley Field. But was that any reason for the faithful to get down? Of course not. As Steve Trout and others proved all year, there's now more ways than one to play them on Chicago's north side or left side. Larry Bowa showed him some rain. And in the very first inning, that footloose deer, Bob Dernier, showed him how to exchange a ground out into not just one, but 2 extra bases. Hang 'em high. Now all the Cubs needed was another ground out for an RBI. Later, Keith Moreland, though not so fleet of feet, decided he too would try to make a long run of it. Leading 4-2, Steve Trout tried to make it all the way, but floundered briefly in the ninth. Enough for Fry to take Trout out and call for his big guy in the bullpen. So there was Lee Smith with 2 outs and matters still very much in doubt. Shade closer than the first one, but a win no less satisfying, as the Cubs now held the commanding 2 games to none edge. Only 1 victory shy of finally flying that National League pennant. Only 1 victory. But who could have dreamed just how elusive that one last victory would prove to be on the faraway grounds of San Diego? Paradise lost? Well, on the night of the decisive Bloody Sunday, a deft and mournful silence did hit the streets, which night after night had so boisterously celebrated so many unforgettable Cubs wins. After the last out of the final day of the regular season, the entire Cubs ball club came out onto the field not to receive an ovation, but to offer one to the fans who, win or lose, have always made baseball at Wrigley Field such a rare and unique experience. A record 2.1 million, more than 600,000 in the year before, were there to see their dream of a lifetime finally come to life in '84. But as overwhelming as the Cubs' turnaround was, nothing proved more overwhelming to the Cubs themselves than the fans who'd never left them.
Well, I can tell you this. This is my 35th year in baseball professionally, and I've been to a lot of towns. I've been on some winning teams. I've been on a World Championship team. I managed a team in the World Series. But I've never, ever, any place been associated with an organization that's got such great fans as the Chicago Cubs. No matter what town we go to, they're out there. No matter how we play for a day or two, they stand behind us and they support us. And I'm just thankful that I've got an opportunity to manage a club like this and have the great support that these fans have given us.
No question that Cubs fans have always marched to the beat of a different drum. And no question that love kept lifting their club higher and higher in the standings.
Your love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forevermore.
Oh yeah, the fans here are really great.
I tell you what, they're our 10th player. There's no question about it. Yeah, they've treated us real good here, and they're coming out more now than they have in the past, and that's what winning's all about. And you know, we're just happy they're coming out and boosting us on.
Your love lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side forevermore. You know your love keeps on lifting higher, higher and higher. I said your love keeps on lifting higher and higher. Your love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up, quench my desire, and I'll be at your side
Tribune Company and the Chicago Cubs would like to thank all their wonderful fans at home and away who helped make '84 so uniquely memorable, and to invite you all back in 1985.